Hi, everybody. It's April Henry. I'm back with another live broadcast about writing. My plan is to do this every day this week, March 23rd through 27th at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Today, I'm going to be talking about how to start your story with a what if. Tomorrow, Wednesday, I'll be talking about creating characters. First of all, I need to get some important things. My t-shirt today is a where's Waldo? Find him before he finds you. And he's carrying a knife. I'm actually wearing makeup today. I don't normally wear makeup. I'm lazy. Plus, if you do Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, it's pretty much frowned upon because if you smear your makeup all over somebody's gi, it ends up looking like the Shroud of Turin. But thanks to my friends on Twitter, um, I'm figuring out about mascara primer and regular mascara. So I'm wearing both today. And it did seem like it makes my eyelashes longer, which is so important in this time of crisis. So if you have a question, uh, ask me anything you want, or you can just ask and I will get to it later. All these videos can be viewed later. I'll be posting them on YouTube and on my website. So I'm going to talk about how to start your story with what if. So here's some what ifs I've stolen from real life. One girl stolen was started with a real blind girl who was briefly kidnapped after her mom left the keys in the car and someone stole the car with her in it. So I watched her on TV and I thought, what would have happened if they kept her? So that's where that started. Hey, if anybody's watching, can you do me a favor and just press a like or something so I can see that this is broadcasting? I'm not getting any response as if this is happening, or just make a quick comment or something. Um, a second book that started with a real life event was The Night She Disappeared. It was, thank you for the heart. It's what if a kidnapper targeted a pizza delivery girl and ended up taking a different girl because they had switched shifts. So that's The Night She Disappeared, another what if that started with a real story. A final one is The Girl I Used to Be. What if a girl grew up thinking that her dad had killed her mom and taken off and was on the run, and then she learned that he actually had been killed at the same time as her mother, and she realizes that her dad wasn't a killer, he's actually a victim. That was another one that was based on a true story. It's based on a real cold case out of Washington State that hasn't been solved yet. So I keep trying to keep my head in front of my pull-up bar, which actually has some assistive bands on it so I can lift myself up because I'm not strong enough to pull myself up yet. So here's some other ideas that you guys could use. What if a drunk driver killed my husband and got off with a slap on the wrist? What would I do to get justice? What felt like justice to me? What if I was 14 and my grandma had to move in with us and had to share my room? What would happen then? If you want some more story starters, check out aprilhenry.com under writing, and then there's a whole section of story starters there. So where do we get a what if? I mean, ideas are all around us. I just showed you three that started with real life things. I pay attention to things that make me feel a lot of emotion, things that I get angry about or that I get excited by or that I think are beautiful. So what is it that in your world that makes you feel a lot of emotions? Those things can be story starters. What if somebody fictional was so upset by what was happening that they decided to do something about it? What if someone came down with a coronavirus and hunted down somebody who was saying that we should open back the economy? Maybe that could be a thing. You can steal a plot from the Bible, from a play. A Thousand Acres was based on King Lear. Myths and fairy tales are all kind of waiting to be updated. I love newspapers, online newspapers, physical newspapers, magazines. A lot of times there are stories in there that I will rip out and think, that's interesting. How could I use it in a story? I saw something a few years ago about a family who was living in their car because they were afraid if they moved out of the neighborhood and got a different address, their kid would be forced to go to a worse school. So that could be part of a plot. I look at the human interest stories. I look at the questions people ask in Dear Abby or any of those other online advice columns. What I saw a story here locally years ago about a 12-year-old who rearranged some of those deer that people put out at Christmas that are made out of wire and have lights on them, and they did something kind of obscene with them. But the guy who owned them actually had a heart attack when he was trying to put them back in their regular position. And you think, wow, how would that affect that 12-year-old going forward? Photographs, advertisements, dreams, overheard conversations, movies, all of those things can start sparking ideas in you. I listen to music lyrics sometimes and I think, wow, that could be the beginning of a plot. There's a local band called Blitzen Trapper, and they have a song called Black River Killer. And it begins, it was just a little while past the Sunset Strip, they found the girl's body in an open pit. Her mouth was sewn shut, but her eyes were still wide, gazing through the fog to the other side. Now, isn't that creepy? That could be the beginning of a book. Might have to be an adult book. It might be too creepy for teens, or maybe not. So I keep a bunch of file folders full of what I call fodder. And I also have an online file folder that's full of fodder. So if I need an interesting trait to give to a character, I need my dialogue to sound better, I might start pulling out my file folders and looking at things. I look at interviews from novelists that I admire and look at what they say about how they write. I might even photocopy parts of their books to think about how did they do this thing that I so admire. The last book I did that with was a book, an adult thriller called Fierce Kingdom by Jen Phillips. That book was amazing. I actually stayed up till 2 a.m. so I could finish it, and photocopying parts of it helped me think about how Jen did what she did. We finally actually met, I think, at the Edgars a couple of years ago, and I was probably acting like a stalker because I was like so excited to meet her, and I loved her book so much, and I wasn't on her radar. We were in a different category, but I really recommend Fierce Kingdom. Another thing to think about when you think about your what ifs is to use your own experiences. There are things that only you can tell, and it will help you stand out in an agent's eyes and an editor's eyes because it feels real when they read it. So it gives you convincing detail that couldn't be easily researched, even later it could be a good hook for the media. So think about things that you know. It could be something small like how to macrame, or it could be something big like growing up in a fundamentalist family, or what's it like to travel in Istanbul, or how to shoe a horse. Can you put some of yourself in your book? It gives it freshness and immediacy. And one thing I've learned when I first started writing, I started writing a book about identical twin men who are in their middle-aged. I was like in my 20s, and they lived in the South. And I was writing from the point of view of both of them. And like, I just thought if you were going to be a writer, you should write about stuff you didn't know. Like that would make you be a better writer. But try and stick close to home, at least with some stuff. Some stuff you can research, but if there's things that you know, why go so far away from your own experience? I don't even think I'd been in the South that much when I started that book. And for some reason, it never really worked. I don't know why. So when we're starting our stories, almost all stories start with a goal. A plot starts with a story goal. It's to get something, to escape something, and that can even include revenge or punishment or change. I'm sorry, that's causing something. Revenge, punishment, change. To escape something, that's like danger or pain, or in my books, it's usually a your kidnapper to resolve something or to survive something. So get something, cause something, escape something, resolve something, survive something. And then once you have your what if, you need to ask yourself 3 questions. How can I make it bigger or worse? Because usually your initial idea isn't good enough to sustain a whole book. The second thing is, what can I steal from myself? And that's going back to what we talked about earlier. What do you know? And what do you need to research? And then when I'm thinking about how to grow my plot, when I first have an idea, I write down all my thoughts about it on characters, scenes, twists, etc. I don't worry about fitting things together or making sense. I just brainstorm. I ask myself what would naturally happen after this initial event. And then I ask myself what bad things could happen next. And the best bad things occur because the character tried to fix things and made things worse. Once I have my idea, I ask myself questions about it, because plot is what the characters logically do to deal with the situation that they find themselves in. So I might make a list of scenes. I imagine the kind of things that might happen in the aftermath of that opening event. And like I'm working on a book right now about kids trapped in a hotel during a big blizzard. So if that happened, like that hotel didn't have, it only had continental breakfast, so they'd run out of food really soon. People would hoard, people would fight, there'd be secrets revealed, things would get dirty, it would sound noisy outside, there could be a bobcat that tries to kill people. People could come out and never come back, or come back, go out and then get turned back by the weather and come back with more information. I make a list of all the things I need to know, and I have a running list. I don't do research first and then write. I usually do simultaneously and kind of, write and research as I'm writing, rather than doing the research first and then writing. I'll probably do some research first and then write, but as I go along, there's going to be a lot more. I think about what's going to be my opening scene. And you might not know that for a long time. It might take a while to figure out, but it needs to be gripping and compelling. And it also needs to be very well written, because those first 5 pages are what's going to interest an agent, and then later an editor, and probably a reader. So you need to make sure that your best stuff isn't in chapter 17. People are not going to read that far. But don't worry too much about making it great in the beginning, because it's not going to be great. You're going to make it great by editing. I ask myself, what are going to be the moments of trauma for the kind of books that I write? I mean, I've written probably 30 mysteries and thrillers for teens and adults. So I'll say, is there a killing? Is there a chase scene? The discovery of the body? A scene of menace? A character at risk? Those could be exciting scenes. And then if I can, I'll try and think of a plot twist. Usually, a lot of times it's that somebody isn't who we thought they were. Like maybe your heroine learns that her real father might be the serial killer. And then some people will write their plot points on 3x5 cards and start mixing them up. I use a program called Scrivener, which is a great writing program. It's available for both Macs and PCs, and it has a virtual corkboard that you can use, so you could write your plot points down on, like goes to biker bar and has fight, and then you could rearrange those later. A lot of times when you're writing, you're taking regular characters and putting them in an alien setting, and then they do things that are true to themselves. So in Marathon Man, the main character runs marathons and he escapes by running away, even though he's been tortured. There's a great book called The Librarian about the title character figures out how to use his knowledge and skills as a librarian to stop the bad guys. And manuscripts are often rejected because the stakes are not high enough and the character isn't in enough danger. So make sure that people are going to care about whatever problem it is that your hero is facing, or heroine. So that's it for today. Let me see if I have any questions over here. Okay, no, I don't see anything I need to address right now. Ask questions later. I will get to them. I'll look at all of them. I'll incorporate them. And then I'll see you tomorrow, Wednesday, the 25th at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and I'm going to be talking about creating characters. Also, if you guys are writing anything and you want to send me a short sample, I'm going to be posting some of those on my website, aprilhenry.com. Okay, see you tomorrow.